You are now being called to merge together the totality of your divine energy. This is no ordinary thing, which is why, as always, it is such an honor to channel these sacred messages for you. But first, an energy update. The divine masculine, in all of his glory, has quite a great feat to undergo in his exploration of personal power, status, and ego, in the pursuit of self-actualization and its physical manifestation. And it burdens me to say, but many of which have been rendered unconscious as he has been bound by his rationale and expectation of his defined role, their pursuits often becoming tangled up with their sense of worthiness. The masculine actually possesses a vast expanse of unconsciousness, which he then calls forth in every action that he takes, in his words and his wanting, at every level of his attainment. In order to reawaken higher qualities of masculinity, this week's channeled message, both men and women alike step into divine masculine power using these 7 principles: primal urge, will and determination, instinct, authenticity, ego, optimistic faith, and personal sovereignty. Now let's get into the channeling of divine masculine energy, his current state, as well as how we can use these principles in order to maximize his full potential in this current timeline and dimension of reality. First, we have primal urge, the Emperor. Now, within the Emperor, I did pull the message that divine masculine is going through some major upgrades, especially within the area of his most natural form, as well as his most natural state of being, that being what is most primal and instinctive within him, the urge to exercise his power and control. When reading this card for psychic messages, I felt intuitively that the complete and absolute embrace of such solid stance, right, and stature to own one's ability to affect those around him with just his presence alone could also create the potentiality for greater experiences and becoming more explorative in this arena. I see being a really large part of the divine masculine reawakening. This, I fear, has held a great physical blockage within the collective and especially within the divine masculine as he is embodied in human form rather than as a collective energy. There is a very bold and adventurous side to you that is sort of waiting to be unleashed. There is a willingness and a courage here to venture beyond the typical, normal, and more conventional ways of how a man's body is allowed to perform, how he is allowed to receive gratification and pleasure. This card is bringing to the surface that part of the divine masculine unconsciousness to relearn what it is you personally, as an individual, truly want and need, crave, shall I say, from a sexual partner. This is going to be a very strong point in the initial phases of your awakening of divine masculine energy. For those who are just beginning their journey, this is a really powerful message, and to step into your power is really powerful. So remember that doing this work will require a lot of shedding of limiting beliefs, right? Old patterns and ways of thinking. If you are actively in a partnership, commanding these wants and needs with your words and maintaining a level of, again, that commanding stature within your action, right? Leading your partner, in a sense, to where it is that you want to go and take them, okay? Could help to bring your desires into manifestation with consent, of course. I do want to add that Sexual energy is incredibly potent and should be seen as something that is sacred. When you choose to give yourself to another, you become energetically bonded with that individual. So, the maintenance of one's own sexual health is incredibly important. I want to emphasize that here. For those who may not be in partnership, when you become aware of the immensity of such an act, it becomes more clear just how important it is for one to maintain a level of self-control, right? The Emperor, as you could probably tell by the image, is a man of age-old wisdom. He possesses the experience, the knowledge, giving him the courage to stand on his throne, right? And is able to maintain that level of neutrality when it comes to his instinctual force, right? So discernment is also emphasized by the Emperor. Will and determination is represented by the Death card. And as you can see, there is an entire scene being depicted in this card with the Angel of Death riding in on his white horse after a devastating event, which has led to the loss of life in mass. It is only the priest and the innocent child who looks on in hope, while another would look away in despair, disbelief, and perhaps even discouragement. This is a very powerful message as well for the Divine Masculine and represents a huge turning point for him along his journey. Just as there is a darkness to the feminine, there is a destructive force to the masculine, which is what I was picking up intuitively in this card. Death being the final destroyer, right? Represented here by Major Arcana card number 8. The Emperor was Major Arcana card number 4. I'm going through a sort of series on the Healing Light and Stardust Pinterest page, which you should definitely check out, where you can gain more insight into my personal services. If you would like to work with me, the door is open. But anyway, back to this current energy reading. What I felt for pulling the Death card for Will and Determination as well was that only the pure of heart and mind could even face such a frightening reality, the presence of the unknown, and even to possess one sliver of hope that one could come out of it on the other side, liberated, perhaps with a few cuts and scrapes here and there, but completely changed, right, for the better. And here I'm talking about the overcoming of the individual's struggle, their quest for something. The Angel of Death has delivered the message to you today that there is an inevitability of having to face one's shadow side. And for some, their shadow might have a ghoulish appearance, not to scare anyone, or trigger anyone, but the threat of death could be creeping. And for this particular group of divine masculine beings that I'm speaking to, those who are drawn to this energy as it embodies their divine masculinity and divine masculine energy, right? I feel the need to relay that when you do die, despite your beliefs on the subject, right, about what happens when you die, new life is always taken on, right? The body will become the earth and the soul will do whatever you believe, right? It will take on a new life. You may be reborn again. You could enter a realm within the cosmos or deep within Earth, right? Spirit wants you to know that whatever it is that you're going through can also do the same. Your shadow side, the part of you that is a little more destructive, can also do the same. When you face your unhealthy habits, toxic behaviors, you are embodying, right, that courage to become anew. Believe it or not, this is what divine masculine does best. He provides, right, that example of strength, of sound body and mind, and one's spirit, that spiritual power, to push on toward brighter days. Divine masculine also has a creative energy, right? He's one part of that incredible synergy that happens between man and woman that has the capacity to birth new life. So you can also use your innate life force, right? Your innate connection to higher forces to empower yourself to get through those dark days. Death, the great equalizer, brings balance to the violence of valor and victory, as perhaps one fights their way through an army of opposition. The third principle, instinct, is represented by Three of Wands. The Three of Wands, in my personal interpretation, represents the quest for knowledge, truth-seeking, and becoming a child of the world. You are setting your sights on a new goal. There is a sense of possibility, setting your sights on the horizon and choosing to step forward. Here I see quite clearly as well a spiritual seeking after. There is an aesthetic quality to Three of Wands. A great deal is learned when equipped with the bare essentials needed to encourage one's sense of faith as they embark on new ventures, as understood through, religious rites of passage such as pilgrimage, or even work through honest means. I believe both can teach one a great deal about the value of the inner working that turn the gears of one's ability for innovation, for coming up with new ideas and insights. The book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho is coming to me as well. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. If you feel as though you are on this inner, journey of self-discovery as well, I believe that is what Three of Wands is here to teach you, to enjoy the process of allowing what is meant to unfold before you to do so. There is a joyous air about the initial, phases of the divine masculine's excitement to explore, to expand his kingdom, right? I believe pilgrimage, honest work, and the time spent alone, really, in one's mind allows for one to get to know oneself on a deep personal level. New patterns of thought are able to form when you throw yourself into situations where the outcome is not yet preconceived, although the outcome is known by your eternal spirit, who has been laying down the stones in your path, guiding you and directing you. Even when you did not know, Spirit was always there with you, giving you the bits and pieces of information to discover once again who you truly are. To be in and of the world actually is also a very divine masculine quality. When you are ready to start your journey, to get on the path, what are you going to bring with you? What do you take? What do you leave behind? What is most important? What can you do without? You can take this into your next new project or relationship. What skills do you need to acquire? What do you need to unlearn from your past in order to build your future? I'm seeing that divine masculine is required to think quickly, and act fast, using the predisposed intelligence of their natural capabilities to master the art of the sleight of hand to awe and inspire, as well as maintain and uphold their honor, their name, and protect what is rightfully theirs by virtue of them having acquired it. This may be a tricky yet dazzling approach, and to be unafraid of the pitfalls that may lie ahead. It is brave and it is honorable to face the world alone, but it is foolish not to every once in a while look behind one's back for fear of enemy attack. Also, even the king of the jungle travels in prides better to face the enemy with. Divine masculine principle number 4, authenticity, is embodied by the 7 of Swords. I see that in this card, maintaining a lightness of heart is encouraged, that it can be useful in avoiding becoming hardened by the throes and throngs of life events. The trickster is a divine masculine archetype and typically depicts a male as having not so much evil, but a playful, almost devious quality, you could say. I would say, which is a really stark contrast. Can be seen as something to be taken lightly, but obviously the archetype of the trickster could have harmful effects within its most harsh aspects. And for some reason, that archetype is coming through within the 7 of Swords when it comes to embodying, one's own authentic state of being, the part of them which is most aligned with who they have been brought into this world to assume the role of and play out their part in this world stage we call reality. Within the realm of supernatural understanding, right? I see that there is a playfulness to be embodied, and that for the divine masculine, this lightheartedness of spirit could be difficult and unnatural at times. It may test your confidence learning to embody new aspects of yourself, right? Or old aspects of you in different ways, right? Experienced through a different lens as you grow and mature, and grapple with any of the different states of being that you may find yourself in any given situation, right? Learning to adapt to any given experience that life brings your way. I see within this card that you could be learning how to express your personality. It is a strong, movement of energy throughout the divine masculine collective, that it is okay to take on different archetypes, that there are more than just one, right? That masculine energy is a spectrum. Every single man on this planet is an embodiment of masculine energy and what it can be, right? So therefore, there's 3.5 billion ways to be a man. If you're looking for ways that you can learn how to express your personality, I would obviously highly recommend astrology. Exploring your energy centers through chakra clearing, taking a free personality quiz online, Myers-Briggs classic, perhaps taking on an archetype of a divine masculine energy that you feel strongly connected to, but also learning your communication style, learning what your wants are, what your desires are, what your needs are, what your values are, your likes, your dislikes, right? These are all a part of the personality. You could ask around, find out what other people around you like about you, and see what they say. What do they dislike? This can all help you to form a clearer and more reliable sense of self. The fifth principle of divine masculine power is ego and individuality, represented by Two of Pentacles. And in this card, I saw that in order for divine masculine to step into its full capacity as an energetic force and within you, is to maintain a level-headed approach rather than the duality of the feminine, right, which embodies both sides of polarity as one. The divine masculine embodies neutrality, right, and sits in the gray area. He is a mix, a blend of opposite forces. He is non-dualism, or the middle path. I feel strongly to relay the message that a clear mind and clear thought are vital for the processing and ideation that comes with bringing creations into form. The divine masculine, which comes from the supreme being, right, the supreme creator, is a function of the mind rather than the emotions. Of course, the most complete beings seek to embody both harmoniously. I also see that it is through newfound spiritual understanding in this preliminary age we find ourselves at the precipice of completely new version of existence for humanity. The objective is of unification within oneself to ultimately find peace with the everlasting truth of existence, that which encompasses all truths, where the development of oneness is seen as paramount and above all else in order to reach a state of enlightenment. As the energy continues to rise and pulsate in waves of incredulous force, there are more than many possibilities of what one can become, and there are an unlimited ways that one can reach their full potential. In the same vein, there is not just one way to view a particular problem or situation. The state of your current circumstances is best delineated when all of the facts and data are present. That divine masculine energy also has the capability to open up to their capacity to experience the mystical, right? And does so through his determination to choose the level of his consciousness. He can expand and explore. The amount of experiences, it depends completely on his willingness to let it in. It was about finding that balance between knowing and being, of experiencing and letting go. The sixth divine masculine principle of power, optimistic faith, represented by the Knight of Swords. The archetype of divine masculine actually can be split into three, similar to the divine feminine, which is very popularly represented by the maiden, mother, and crone. The archetypes of divine masculine are the warrior, the father, and the sage. And through my own interpretation and delineation, of course, I see that the Knight of Pentacles represents the warrior archetype. He is gallant, he seeks justice, and looking possibly to find that validation through victory and showmanship. He possesses the willingness to learn and develop, and is excited to experience something new. He is delighted by the opportunity to express his viewpoint. Knight of Swords definitely has something to say and is not afraid to speak up and make his presence known through less conventional ways. The warrior archetype, represented by the Knight of Swords, represents the search for purpose, validation, knowledge, truth, and new experiences. It represents the going after the attainment of finding one's place in the world, or even through companionship Generally, there is a feeling of hope and optimism to go full force into the chaos and be right where the action is, knowing that that's where you belong, and being led by that internal drive. Knight of Swords has no fear and is less concerned with how they are perceived, instead choosing to focus on the impact that they can make. The journey towards self-actualization is connected to happiness. Just the willingness to try alone is enough for the Knight of Swords to be fulfilled at the end of the day, knowing that tomorrow they can get up and try again. And it is through failures that lessons are learned and better knowledge is gained. Through Knight of Swords, I see a sense of being on mission to accomplish and set right the wrongdoings, the unseemly actions and cross attitudes of those less refined than you, right? Being of somewhat of a gentlemanly stature is embodied as one is led by a higher force, and knowing that comes from deep within them, a newfound level of respect for one's beingness is assumed, and it is through faith, which is, which some could argue is optimistic inherently, although can be created through desperation. When that shift within oneself to truly believe, right? That goes from knowing to experiencing what it is to be truly in alignment. That confidence can truly shine. See as well in the Knight of Swords the capacity for fluidity of masculinity and its movement, no longer being put into a box and defined by any one idea, but rather becoming unleashed. And instead used to galvanize the hearts and minds of mankind. It is an outward focus rather than a self-centered one. There is an abundance that is bestowed upon an individual as they seek to embody a higher purpose, a higher meaning. Perhaps this is what it means to be both masculine and divine. Personal sovereignty, divine masculine principle number 7 is personal sovereignty, represented by the Knight of Pentacles. In the Knight of Pentacles, the answer remains clear that wherever you go is exactly where you are. You bring the full magnitude of your being when you walk into a space. You are embodied totally by the collection of your memories and experiences, those you've previously loved and those who you hold dear in your heart. You have a fully formed idea about the world. You treat others generally with an aura of respectability, no matter how you may feel about them on the inside, and those in your presence feel welcomed. You have a very warm atmosphere that invites in a layer of depth as well. There's a very deep sense of the masculine and the expanse of his consciousness, and a dependability that is so widely cherished. Here in the Knight of Pentacles, I see that you are very at ease in the comfort of your own being, and that it is in the simplicity that you find a level of freedom in your daily life, if that makes sense. Rather, you're not trying to escape reality, but instead to become so immersed in it that you transcend it. And although there's so much to explore, many realms, many valleys and mountaintops and cliffsides, waterfalls, to to immerse yourself in forest clearings and meadows with which you can rest your head when you aren't on your trusty steed. I see that it is the abundance. I see that there is great abundance that lies before you, and that in creating wealth, that this journey will lead you to more of that which you already are, which is complete and full within themselves. That is divine masculine energy. When you learn to embody your divine masculine traits, you are not only healing yourself, but also a larger body of thought. When you choose to embrace your authenticity, step into your personal power, allow yourself to break free from the mold and embrace your individuality in your complete surrender to higher power through optimistic faith. When you learn to trust your instincts and deepen into your experiences of Earth and all of its pleasures, right? You not only affect those around you, but you tap into higher aspects of what it is to be a human being, of what it is to be and exist. The work that you do in this lifetime will ripple on throughout eternity and follow you along your soul's journey through the astrals or in your next life. I wish you nothing but the best. Happy life and beautiful relationships and the stability with which you are currently seeking. Thank you so much for tuning in, for stepping into your divine masculinity and choosing to expand your consciousness, raise your vibration, and tap into these divine energies. Such a powerful experience we've all just had. If you want to learn more about divine feminine energy, you can watch the Tap Into Your Divine Feminine Power video. If you're on a twin flame journey, we have videos in the description about that as well. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next week for a brand new video.